Vladislav Haraskevich packed his helmet for Milan. And not just any helmet, a helmet of memory. Painted with the faces of over 20 Ukrainian athletes killed by Russia since 2022. A figure skater, a boxer, athletes, children, friends. Some were Olympians, and all were dead. He wore it through 4 training runs. The IOC didn't care about it when it was zooming down the track at 75 miles an hour where no one could see the faces. But they waited until right before his race to disqualify him, saying no kind of demonstration or political or religious or racial propaganda is permitted in any Olympic sites. Haraskevich refused to remove the helmet. He refused a black armband compromise. He was considered a legitimate medal contender and he gave it all up, saying there are things more important than medals. This is the price of our dignity. Heck, Christy Coventry, the president of the IOC, actually cried during the press conference explaining why they had to disqualify him, saying that it was an emotional morning. She kept emphasizing that it wasn't about the message, it was about where he wanted to express it, saying no one was disagreeing with the message, that it was powerful, that it was a message of remembrance, just not during competition. Haraskevich pointed to these inconsistencies. We've seen this all over the place. U.S. figure skaters with photos of their parents that were killed on the airplane crash in January. No penalty. An Israeli skeleton athlete, Jared Firestone, wore a kippah with the names of 11 Israeli athletes killed at the 1972 Munich Olympics. No penalty. An Italian snowboarder with a small Russian flag on his helmet. No penalty. Many athletes were already expressing themselves. Haraskevich said that they didn't face the same things, and suddenly just the Ukrainian athlete in this Olympic Games will be disqualified for the helmet. The Court of Arbitration, they denied the appeal the next day, finding that the IOC was reasonable and proportionate. And he could have raised his awareness in mixed zones or press conferences or on social media networks, or in his case, just during the training runs. They didn't want it where it counted. But here's where the story is brutal. While the IOC was busy enforcing neutrality rules and silencing a skeleton competitor for honoring the dead, the Trump administration is busy cutting a very different kind of deal behind the scenes. The Russia-Ukraine war, Trump is saying he wants it over by June. That is what the deadline that Zelensky revealed on February 7th, saying the Americans are proposing the parties end the war by the beginning of this summer, he said. Why June? Because Trump needs a foreign policy win before pivoting to the midterm elections in November. He has lost and lost and lost, and he's looking for a win. Quote, the elections are for them definitely more important, Zelensky said. They say they want to achieve everything by June, and they will do everything possible to ensure the war ends that way. But ending a war and creating peace are not the same thing. In Abu Dhabi, U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner sat across from Russian negotiators. There was no breakthrough on any of the territorial issues. Russia's still demanding that Ukraine withdraw. Ukraine says they will never accept it. So what did get discussed? Money. Follow the money. Zelensky revealed that Ukrainian intelligence briefed him on what's being called the Dmitriev package, a Russian proposal for approximately $12 trillion in economic cooperation between Russia and the U.S. $12 trillion. That is more than quadruple Russia's entire GDP. The package is named for Kirill Dmitriev, the head of Russia's sovereign wealth fund and key Kremlin negotiator. Bloomberg, of all people, is reporting that an internal Russian document outlines 7 areas where Russia and U.S., their economic interests may coincide. Fossil fuels over green alternatives, joint investments in natural gas, offshore oil, critical raw materials cooperation, and you remember the raw materials and rare earth deal that we had with Ukraine. Dollar-based settlements. Yes, the same Russia that's been pushing de-dollarization for years now is begging to come back in the dollar system because of their friendliness with Trump. The Kremlin confirmed that this package exists. A spokesman saying, of course we're offering cooperation. Of course companies from both countries are potentially interested in this cooperation. companies. The White House, they haven't confirmed nor denied it. And here's where it gets worse. The US and Ukraine, like I mentioned, signed that rare earth materials resources deal last April. Ukraine gets a joint reconstruction investment fund. The Ukraine puts in 50% of revenues from all of their mineral extraction projects: lithium, titanium, rare earths, uranium, the whole thing. The US gives military aid, future military aid, not the aid that was already provided. And Ukraine does not get repaid for it either. Trump originally wanted the $500 billion in minerals as repayment. Zelensky refused and said he will not sign off on an agreement that will be paid off over 10 generations of Ukrainians. The deal they struck was a little bit more favorable to Ukraine than it was originally demanded, but here's the problem. 40% of Ukraine's critical mineral deposits are in the Russian-occupied territory or the contested zones. All of that mineral deposit, 40%, in Russian-occupied territory. The deposits, one of Europe's largest lithium reserves, Russia controlled. Another one for rare earth elements, phosphate ores, the whole thing, hasn't been developed since Soviet times. It's in the contested zone. Ukraine's titanium reserves, 7% of the global production of it, under Russian control right now. So the US gets access to minerals Ukraine cannot get access to because Russia already has it. Russia gets $12 trillion in economic cooperation with the US. And what's the Ukraine get exactly? A peace deal? A peace deal that ends up with them giving up territory, giving up minerals, and a referendum on whatever deal gets struck. But referendums take months, and Trump wants it done by June. Security guarantees? The US isn't going to sign those. Zelensky said that the security agreement is practically ready, but the US wants to sign it at roughly the same time as all the other peace agreements. That's translated to, you get securities guarantee after you sign away all of your leverage. Meanwhile, Russia still is bombing Ukraine's energy infrastructure. 400 drones, 40 missiles, all coming last week. Nuclear power plants forced to reduce output. 8 regions hit, rolling blackouts, no heat, no power, a brutal winter. Trump claimed that Putin agreed to a pause on energy attacks. It took just 4 days before Russia violated it. Trump's response? It was supposed to be Sunday to Sunday, and it opened up, and he hit him hard last night. He kept his word on that. What? Russia is bombing civilians in sub-zero temperatures while negotiating a $12 trillion package with the US. And the Trump administration is calling it momentum. Now go back to that helmet, Herashkevich's helmet. The IOC insisted that this violated neutrality, offered compromises, wear the helmet before and after the race, a black armband, show respect, not just there. He refused every single compromise because he did not violate any rules in his belief. The IOC allowed a Russian flag on a competitor's helmet, allowed tributes to dead parents, religious symbols for athletes killed in 1972, but they drew the line at a Ukrainian honoring athletes killed in an act of war, while world powers are negotiating over his country's future without his country's participation. Zelensky put it plainly, 660 Ukrainian athletes and coaches have been killed since the Russian invasion began. Herashkevich wanted the world to remember them at the Olympics because even though they were killed, they made it there, and the IOC said no. The helmet stayed off the track. And meanwhile, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin negotiate over $12 trillion, leaving hundreds dead, hundreds of athletes dead, millions more brutalized and terrorized. Over $12 trillion. Follow the money. Doesn't it seem like our feeds are getting filled with more and more BS right-wing MAGA content? It's no secret that all these top tech bros are in love with the current regime, so it's no surprise that independent left-leaning media is being squashed by the algorithm. If you like our content and content like us, it doesn't take long to click that thumbs up, share, comment, or subscribe. So please help us keep the truth alive.